Welcome to Defining Moments. I'm Rabbi David Fine. Today's guest is Rabbi Josh Broide, a walking contradiction in the best possible way. After 25 transformative years in Boca Raton, holding numerous important community positions, Rabbi Broide made aliyah to Israel this past summer. He's thrilled to be living his Zionist dream while remaining passionately committed to the community he served in South Florida. Josh has dedicated his life to a singular vision, bringing Jews closer to Jewish life and helping Jews of all backgrounds truly get along with one another. He's the rabbi who literally rolls out a red carpet for the first-time visitors to shul, who received the Jerusalem Unity Prize from the President of Israel for his work in bringing community together, and whose boundless warmth, energy, and creativity have touched thousands of lives. I'm excited to share this conversation with you. Let's hear his story. Welcome to the Defining Moments podcast. I'm Rabbi David Fine, and we're here at the beautiful Dabru Studios in Modi'in, and we're here to welcome one of Modi'in's newest citizens, Rabbi Josh Broide. Welcome, Rabbi Broide.
Well, thank you so much, Rabbi. What an honor it is to be here. Thank you.
So before we get into the meat of it, could you just give us like a little rundown on your life, 3 minutes for people that don't know you, just the basics?
Sure. My name is Josh. I guess I'm a retired rabbi right now. I'm not an actively practicing rabbi. Grew up in Cape Town, South Africa. Moved to Elizabeth, New Jersey, which is a very, very special place. We love Elizabeth. And ended up in a amazing yeshiva for 2 years in Israel. And then I moved to Baltimore, where we spent 5 years until getting a great, very special phone call from a rabbi in Boca Raton, Florida, and that became the next 25 years with my wife and I.
And that rabbi was?
That rabbi was actually, ready for this, drum roll? It wasn't Rabbi Brander.
Right.
He was on vacation, but it was Rabbi Fass.
Rabbi Josh Fass.
Rabbi Josh Fass, and it was just an amazing summer. We were only supposed to be there for 2 years. 2 years turned into 25 years. But now I'm very happy to say that we are officially Israeli. We are Israelis, and couldn't be happier. And
so you forgot to mention while you were in Elizabeth, you had a very special NCSY advisor, right?
That's true.
Right.
There are a lot of things that are going to come up on this podcast that are very, very special. It was your amazing wife. And I think when we ate last Shabbat together, I got to tell your kids that I knew your wife before you did. So that was, it's pretty cool.
That is
true.
She
was many of my inspiring moments, right, took place with your wife. She's amazing.
So I want to get right into it, and I want to ask you something because you seem to be a contradiction to me, and I want to try and understand you. Because on one hand, right, it says in one of these articles that I read about you that, you're moving to Israel, but your heart and mind is staying in Boca. But on the other hand, no one is more excited and enthusiastic about being in Israel than you are, meaning all you have to do is look at your Facebook posts. It's almost like 10 times a day that it's like such a breath of fresh air to read. You're so excited to be here. So how could your heart and mind stay in Boca and you be so excited here in Israel?
So I think we're going to take a step back then, because you hit the nail on the head. No one's ever said it to me in the way that you just did, but everything I do is actually a contradiction. And I think that's what makes some people that know me a little confused. And it's not just, we're talking about friends. It could be members of my own family. Maybe my wife, Simone, who I've known as long as almost 40 years now. But everything is a contradiction. I'll just give you a few. You named Israel and the United States, but listen, we're going behind the beamer right now. We're going hardcore. We're going with things, and any fan of Behind the Beamer might have heard some of these things before. But there's nothing that most people will look and say, oh, you know what? This makes sense. There's nothing that makes sense about anything I do. And again, as I said before, you're about to hear, these things drive some people that I know, some of my closest friends, they're not even friends, let's call it my wife. It makes her a little crazy sometimes because, I grew up in South Africa, and when we moved to Elizabeth, I remember in high school I had to register, you're going to become a Democrat or a Republican. And I don't like to get into politics. One thing I never get involved in is politics. I don't talk about politics. maybe that's why this might be a little bit of a controversial statement, but I'm a Democrat. I've been a lifelong Democrat. People say, why are you a Democrat now? I understand the Democrats. Well, I became a Democrat because Bill Clinton played saxophone on the Arsenio Hall show. And that really, I'm a drummer, so that really got me excited for him. So why wouldn't you change? I don't change. When I do something, I'm all in. And part of the reason is because if I ever ran for president, I don't want to be one of these flip-floppers. Oh, you were this, you were that.
Actually, you cannot be a president because you're not born in the United States.
It might be changing.
Right.
We don't know. But I love Trump. So it's like it doesn't make any sense to people. You're Democrat, you love Trump. You know, I love Rabbi Fine. I grew up in Ner Yisrael. He's my rabbi, but I also love Howard Stern. So it was always I was listening to the radio or a tape of either or at any given time, and there were always moments like this in my life where I love rock music. Some might think that's inconsistent with you're an Orthodox rabbi. I'm a huge Guns N' Roses fan. So it's all these things which I love both sides. I really love. It's not like I do this and I have a little bit of that. It's all in on both. Maybe not the Democrats anymore, but still officially a Democrat. But it's that type of stuff. And when it comes to Israel and the United States, listen, God gave me a certain set of skills, and He wants me to do some work. It's pretty clear that, at least right now, because I don't speak Hebrew that well, that most of the impact that I believe I can have is probably in the United States or with English speakers. Maybe there's a job here in Israel also with English speakers, but I don't want to waste time. I got things to do, and we'll get to Israel at some point. I'm living here. I'm proud Israeli, also very proud American.
It wasn't a criticism.
No,
I just wanted to
love
understand, right?
Yes, I'm working there. I
Right.
fly back and forth
Right.
every other week right now.
Right.
It's not easy, but again, I think that's part of that comes back to the same thing. Where are you?
Right.
I'm both.
Right. So
I'm doing both.
I think it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So thank you. I mean,
Thank you.
You don't always have to be on the same page. There could be contradictions, and that makes your life richer and better.
Yeah, my whole life is a contradiction, and it's certainly richer for me. I think it just makes others a little crazy, but I enjoy
So
it.
let's go back to the beginning. You said you were born in Cape Town.
Yeah.
How old were you when you came to New Jersey?
I was 10 years old.
So do you remember living in Cape Town?
I certainly remember living there.
And why did you come to America?
So in 1985, things were starting to fall apart in South Africa. People didn't know what the future would hold. I'm a fourth generation South African. I was actually not just born there, but my father, my grandfather, his father came over, my great grandfather from Lithuania, and my mom is a Jersey girl. My mom is from New Jersey. Where did she meet my father? In Israel, in a city called Arad in the early 70s.
Wow.
I was almost born in Israel, and that didn't happen because there was a war that broke out. I guess it was called the Yom Kippur War, and they ended up going to South Africa. It was booming back in the 70s. But when things started to fall apart, my mom had a sister in New Jersey, so we moved to New Jersey. Now, there's a big difference between the Jewish community of Cape Town and the Jewish community of Elizabeth, New Jersey. One is Orthodox and one is called Orthodox, but it's not the same, more traditional. So we became Orthodox overnight. It was just, okay, now we're going to keep Shabbat. Now it's Shabbos.
In South Africa, it's sort of like the synagogue that you don't go to is Orthodox.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. All the synagogues there are pretty much Orthodox, but it's a different way of life, and normally people kind of ease into it. Not my family. Maybe that's also part of the.
So you just became religious overnight?
Yeah, yeah. You ever hear of someone doing that?
I hear of a lot of people doing it, but most people don't succeed and stay religious.
Right. So I think I've also been, since I was 10, because you kind of had to do it without knowing what you're doing. So I think in my later years, I've been trying to go back to learn and teach, but really learn for myself. Many of those basics that I just didn't get that my friends got.
So was it hard for you to sort of acclimate, to integrate into life in New Jersey because you had been in...
I love Jersey. That's a great question. I love Jersey. I immediately fell in love with music.
You went to JEC?
JEC.
Right.
I loved JEC. I loved the community. At the time, we always felt that why weren't we as lucky as our friends in Teaneck or in some of the other communities? I don't think Five Towns was even a thing back then, but I wanted to go to Frisch, and I didn't want to go to JEC.
What year are we talking about now?
This is 1985, 1986. And but I think I was lucky because that year our grade in JEC had phenomenal guys. a really special group who we're all still in touch till today. And, NCSY played a big role.
Right.
Your wife was a very active part of that. And Elizabeth was always behind the times a little bit. We always joke about that. But I think as a child growing up in that community, that really helped. Elizabeth, your listeners who live there are going to let us know if they're able to even hear this podcast. Maybe they have to get a tape of it because they don't have cell phones yet. But as a child growing up, it's a very safe place. It was a very, safe spiritually, and like we thought we were doing some things that were like really pushing the lines and really maybe getting a little bit in trouble, but compared to what others might have been doing, it wasn't that bad.
So after JC, you went to Israel, you said, for 2 years.
Yeah. But again, it's another case. Let me just also back up here with the story. Everything I'm going to tell you right now, everything we're going to talk about, nothing will make sense. There is nothing which you would say would naturally lead to the next thing. It doesn't make sense that you grow up in Cape Town, you end up in New Jersey. It doesn't make sense that I ended up going through JEC and was the only guy in my class who went to a yeshiva called Ner Yaakov. I wasn't supposed to go there. I was supposed to go to a place called Or Yerushalayim, where I think we had a dozen friends, a dozen classmates. Not a big class, maybe 35 guys.
Ner Yaakov was in Katamon, on that circle there, right?
Yeah,
Bustanai. Actually, Julie, my wife, when we started dating, lived on Bustanai as a single.
It's a great community.
Yeah.
It was a great place to be in a yeshiva. I don't think the neighborhood liked to have the yeshiva. It's basically one of the nicest communities in residential communities in Jerusalem. And now you got stuck with a yeshiva, which the best way to compare it to anything, if you haven't heard of it, is like the movie Animal House. Like that's what we were. It was the kind of yeshiva which I ended up in, again, through hashgacha pratis, whatever it is. It was something which I needed to be in a place like that, which just gave me the space to kind of figure it out, and which I also figured that also led me to become a rabbi, which is a whole other story. But I think part of the challenge that I had growing up was that I didn't connect to Judaism in a meaningful way because I never had rabbis or teachers that I connected with in that way. I think at NCSY I actually did, but not as formal teachers. So I was always struggling with this informal education versus the formal. I never did well in formal education. I did not fit well in a school setting.
But then you went to Ner Yisrael, right?
Yeah.
So something must have happened.
But there's actually even between that. Let me tell you, I was in Torah Moshe. So just look at where, and then Ner Yisrael it's not too far of a leap from a place like Torah Moshe. I spent time there, but again, none of these things would have made natural sense. But even when I was in a place like Torah Moshe, like I didn't. I put on my hat, but I never left my music. And that was a key thing that kind of got me through most of these places, which they didn't like. They were not happy.
What's wrong with music?
The music that I like. I love music.
Right.
I'm a drummer. It's also a big part of who I am and how I
what's
identify.
wrong with that? Meaning, why would anyone have a problem
with
when
you listen to Guns N' Roses or you listen
to,
back then Bon Jovi and a lot of my hair metal bands. I still remember this. I moved into the dorm, and someone had taken away the tapes. Back then, we had these things called mixtapes.
Right, I remember them.
It was before CDs and
I'm even
playlists.
older than you are, so.
A little bit. I'm catching up. But someone had confiscated them out of my locker. First, I thought maybe someone had stolen them because maybe they liked music too. And I was made aware pretty quickly that, no, they were taken away. But it's like it wasn't nice. Like you welcome a guy in. Okay, maybe he didn't grow up in the same place you did, and they sit down and talk to me about it. But it wasn't like that. There were rules, and you couldn't. But no one told me about that rule. Right. I wasn't trying to break a rule. But then you take my tape, and I was 5 tapes. Let's just say I got them back very quickly. They came back. They showed up very quickly. I was very clear. We didn't want to have any problems.
So tell me about Ner Yisrael.
So I wasn't supposed to go to Ner Yisrael either. I was going to go to Yeshiva University. In fact,
you seem much more of like YU guy than Ner Yisrael.
Not only was I a YU guy, but I guess every yeshiva, at least back then, had a YU representative. They would let all the other guys know if there's going to be some sort of info session about YU. I don't know. Someone was coming to town. Maybe you can help coordinate it. We got a YU mug. I'm so excited to get that. I was the YU representative in Ner Yaakov. And I was the only guy
that went to
that
Ner
ended
Yisrael.
up not going to YU out of all the other guys.
So why did you go to Ner Yisrael?
Because it comes back to music. Because, there was that time during the year, I don't remember when it was, probably halfway through the year, when you start getting into some learning and you start getting excited about it, so you stay in. I saw a tape on a table in the bass, and so I just assumed it was music. What else would be on a tape? What else would be on a tape cassette? So I pop it in my Walkman. I used to go to the Kotel every day. I used to walk every day.
This is
to
still at
Kotel. Still in Ner Yaakov.
Right.
And I put it in, and I'm listening. I'm like, this is not a tape. This is not music. Who is this rabbi? I never heard anything like it. And it was Rabbi Frand. And I just got immediately hooked. And what was so interesting, I remember, I don't know if it was that tape or one of the ones I was listening to almost right after that, he quoted a story from Rabbi Teitz. So I was like, wow, that's amazing. This rabbi knows my rabbi from Elizabeth.
He's talking directly to
you. He's talking
you.
to me.
Right.
But in everything, I feel like everyone's always talking to me. Like whenever something's going to come out of this podcast, which I don't know what's going to be, but I love, just saying yes, and we'll see what happens. But
so Rabbi Frand, you went to Ner Yisrael just so that I could understand, just because of Rabbi Frand.
Yes, but I've never heard of Ner Yisrael. I had no idea what
you
Ner
just
Yisrael
said,
was.
I heard this rabbi, I want to go to where he goes?
Correct. But the problem was I had to take Bechina, right, to attest to get into the yeshiva. So I went with my father, and I got an interview with the mashgiach at the time, Rabbi Weisbord, and he asked me to prepare a piece of the Gemara. Remember, this is 1995. I'll tell you why that's important. Or 94, 95, and Pesach 95. And he said, take an hour and go learn the Gemara. Now remember, 1995, there was no art scrolls. And even if there were, they probably weren't in the base medrash in Ner Yisrael. So I said to my dad, I said, listen, I can't read this Gemara. I have no idea what it says, but I'm coming here. So why don't we just take a walk around the campus? I want to get to see the place. So I came back after an hour. I sat down with the mashgiach. He asked me, you know what it says? I said, listen, Rabbi. He asked me a question. I said, I can't even read this. I don't know what it says. He was a little taken aback. I don't think that's ever happened in the history of Ner Yisrael. I said, I just really want to go here. I want to be in Rabbi Frand's shir. But even though Rabbi Frand was teaching a third-year shir, and I would be a third-year guy, I didn't have the I didn't have the skills, at least according to them. So they put me in a first-year shir, and I didn't want to be there. And they were learning a Dharam or something, which was not what I was interested in learning. Rabbi Frand was doing brachos. And after Elul, I switched into a shir, and that became the next 5 years.
And you were there for 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some pretty accomplished Talmidei Chachamim and Rabbanim at Ner Yisrael.
Yeah.
Did you have any interaction, or did any
Yes.
of them with the others?
I sure did.
Right.
So first of all, again, hashkacha, again, amazing. You can't plan this out.
Rabbi Weinberg was the
He was
Rosh
there.
Yeshiva,
He was
right?
Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Yaakov Weinberg, the brother of Noach Weinberg. And what was amazing, that the year I came, there were about 10 or maybe even 15 guys that also came from, called the modern Orthodox high schools, and went to the modern yeshivas back then. A guy from OJ, a guy from KBY, a guy from BMT, there were guys coming from different yeshivas, and we all kind of came together.
To Ner Yisrael.
To Ner Yisrael. They weren't in Rabbi Frand's shir. I was the only one. They were all in the real, the other shir. Not the real. Rabbi Frand is the best, and so grateful to him. But in the more classic yeshiva track, and yeshiva Masechta track, and I had a chance. There's always one guy that helps out the Rosh Yeshiva and his wife, the Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Weinberg. So there's like a Masorah who gets it, and one guy, I remember it was Matt Lewis. He was finished his job. I think you finished
To be
when
like
you
a
get married.
shamash.
To be like a shamash,
Right.
yeah. So now I'm the shamash.
Wow. So you were his
Josh
shamash.
Broide
Wow.
is the shamash of the Rosh Yeshiva. You help with some groceries
Right.
and then the laundry, whatever it
Shimush
might be.
Talmidei Chachamim.
Yeah, it was the
Right.
greatest thing. It was the greatest thing. I would call him. You have to talk in third person, which I
Right.
wasn't used to, and sometimes I messed that up. But I remember after I got married, I gave it to my buddy Yedidya Buchwald. You just pass it down. I wonder who has it today. But it was crazy. But again, none of these things make sense. I don't know how I ended up there. I shouldn't have been accepted there. And it turned out to be some of the best years, certainly, of learning of my life.
So what happened next?
So then, this is great. You ready? I don't know if the listeners are going to be able to handle this, because I wasn't supposed to leave Baltimore. We fell in love with Baltimore while we were in yeshiva and then got married in the kollel. And don't forget, my wife and I, we had known each other since we were 11. We didn't even get into that. That's a whole other story. We were in class together, JC and Berea. But we were living in Baltimore. And on Shabbos, we needed a shul to go to. So, of course, everyone goes to the classic shuls. And a neighbor said, well, we're going to this new shul. It wasn't even a building. It was a house where they said there's a young rabbi, but it's older people that are going to be there. Remember, we're in our 20s, early 20s. And most of the people probably in their 40s.
Already.
Married, just got married, but we needed a shul. Like, we're a married couple. Let's
Where
go to
did you
the
meet
shul.
Simone?
Simone and I met in NCSY or at the end of Camp Mosheva. We were together, maybe not friendly that year, but when we were 11. So
wow.
We'd been friends ever since. I never dated anyone. This is my first.
Wow. Okay, back to the shul.
Back to the shul. Who was the rabbi? A young rabbi named Rabbi Moshe Hauer.
Wow.
Alav
HaShalom.
Alav HaShalom.
Right.
And right after we started there, he said, well, we would love you guys to become our first youth directors. There weren't that many kids, but we ran some programs. I remember still have photos, and youth, like NCSY style programs. It wasn't NCSY, but eventually his shul merged with another one. He became one of the largest shuls in Baltimore, and then became the rabbi at the.
So since he just tragically passed away, unfortunately, and he was such a great leader of our people, you have any quick story or something you could tell us about him?
He was great, and he always wanted to try things differently, and I think that kind of stuck with me.
Yeah, that's you. Right?
That is me. Yeah,
Right.
like Baltimore is a very straight and narrow kind of place. So it's hard to kind of break out of that mold. But I'll just give you a quick example. Every year when they had their annual shul dinner, which wasn't that big at the time, so where do you do it? You could do it in your shul. If your shul's not big enough, you'll go to another shul to rent their space. He didn't want to do it. One year we did it I think it was like the Baltimore Aquarium. One year we did it at the library downtown, which is a library. There's no room for tables, but they moved out all the tables. They brought in like ballroom tables. Like just thinking out of the box. And I love that. I love that about him. He wasn't afraid to try things. We stayed in touch over the years, and he was always very, very encouraging and supporting. And, sometimes he would say no, but I love no's also. Because he just says.
So how long did you stay there?
We were there for about 3 years. Okay, and then which we were supposed to stay there. I forgot where we were going with this.
And then you get the call from Rabbi Fast.
Got a call from Rabbi Fast.
Right.
Hey, you want? Well, he called. I think Simone picked up the phone.
Right.
Remember,
how did he know who you were?
His sister, which again, this is debatable because we just saw her.
Right.
I'm pretty sure she was our NCSY advisor the year before your wife was.
Atara or
Atara.
Right, okay.
So I just saw Atara.
Atara was in my class in elementary school.
She
in
does
RPRY.
not remember.
Right.
I don't know how. I'm not that memorable. Come on, Atara.
You're very memorable.
Yeah, no, but whatever. It was just funny. So that's how I think he maybe knew, but I don't know. I don't know how he knew. We were running youth programs at Rabbi Howard's shul, and he's looking for a couple that was a youth director, so it kind of fit the bill. But the only problem was, I remember I made this deal with Hashem, and I said, Hashem, if you can get me a job here in Baltimore as a rabbi, I just finished smicha. I also just finished a degree in special education, and I was in a second
Johns Hopkins.
Johns Hopkins.
While you were doing smicha.
While I was doing smicha.
Right.
Again, you did it twice a week at night. It was they made it work with yeshiva, which was really, really great. I was in a second degree for school administration at that point, and I said, if I can get a job as working in the Jewish world, wasn't it as a rabbi? I wasn't going to become a rabbi in a shul, but even as a teacher or something, just give it to me. And if not, I'm going. I'm not only out. No, I want to stay in Baltimore. I'm going to become a teacher because I have a degree in special education. Right. So where would I go? And I interviewed, and I got a job. I have a contract with Baltimore County Public Schools.
With a public
school. Wow. I was going to be a public school teacher. High school.
That would have been interesting.
That would have been my life. But
right.
that just shows you like how things can change and drastically be so different. Public school ends, and I think I was around 1:30 or 1:45. Mincha and the second Seder at the yeshiva began at 2:30. So I was like, this is great. All I'm doing is basically missing morning Seder. Now I'm getting a full-time job. I'm going to have benefits. I'm going to have health insurance.
And you could still
go to
Seder.
second Seder, a full second Seder, 2:30 to 6:30. So great.
But then you got the call from Rabbi Fast.
Then that Hashem called me,
right.
and he said, I got a deal for you. pick up the phone, and Simone must have answered the phone because it was our home phone. We didn't have cell phones back then. She said, "Oh, this got a call from Rabbi Fass. What do you think about going to Baltimore?" I said, "About Boca?" I said, "Boca? I never heard of Boca. We're not going to Boca. I just got a contract. I'm a man of my word. I signed a contract. I'm not backing out of that. I'm still in the middle of a degree here, school administration at Hopkins. I can't leave that. And plus, we love this community.
Right.
We just had our second daughter. She was born in May. This was July. We're not leaving. We're not going anywhere."
But you left.
Well, she said, "Just call him." Okay. What? Hang up the phone. I said, we're coming to Boca just for 2 years.
Just one question. What attracted you?
Well, he said everything will work out. He says, first of all, let's just figure out if you can get out of the contract. Because I didn't want to break a contract. Listen, I don't want to make a chilul Hashem. I was obviously, wearing a yarmulke, and I don't want to be the guy that they said, "Don't worry, you gave us enough notice. We can fill your job. Don't worry." Okay. What about moving expenses? He helped us with that. What about getting us a place and finding a place that we can move into? He helped us find a place. Also gave us a job, which I will say was paying more than the public school. So why not just give it a shot? And we went for 2 years, which was supposed to be 2 years. I remember at the first board meeting, I said, "Listen, I know this is only a 2-year deal, but here's our 5-year plan for this youth department." And Rabbi Brander and Rabbi Fass just took it to a whole nother level. They said, "Just go for it. Here are the keys." And there was nothing that we couldn't do.
So what was the 5-year plan in short? And what did you do? What did you accomplish there?
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, when it comes to my plans, I have plans right now for the next 20 years. I love making plans. My plans never have ever worked out.
I think that's true for a lot of us.
But ever.
Right.
They're just always better. So I could tell, I don't even remember what the plans were, but what Rabbi Brander and Rabbi Fass enabled us to do was to not only think out of the box, but also give us the resources to do many of the things that we would never even imagine. Like, it wouldn't have happened in Baltimore. You couldn't dream that big. Where else would you charter a 300-seat plane to fly into a rally in Washington, D.C.? I think that was in 2002, maybe. But
that was Rabbi Brander.
That was Rabbi Brander. Uh-huh. But Rabbi Brander didn't. He would say, "Here, Josh, you figure out how to charter the plane." The internet was in its infancy. There was no. I still remember we found this place. I don't know if it was in the phone book called Planet Airways, but that was the kind of thing that we would do back then. Back in 2001 or 2002, 2003, we took 2 teen missions to Israel during the Intifada. No one was traveling. I think YU at that time was trying to bring and encouraging for very inexpensive flights groups to come. But we were bringing teenagers, and no one was doing that. But from a very early point, he said, "Get involved with the Jewish Federation." I never heard of a Jewish Federation. I didn't know what that meant. Why would I go to a Jewish Federation? Got very involved there, which ultimately led to a job at the Jewish Federation doing their community engagement.
After 2 years, you said it was a 2-year job. What happened then?
No, I just stayed on. Stayed on almost probably 8 or 9 years.
Right. Well, eventually both Rabbi Brander went to YU and Rabbi Fass started Nefesh B'Nefesh. So.
Right. And then we have, again, you have to introduce Rabbi Ephraim Goldberg.
Right.
Because he came a year before us. He was there in the kollel and very quickly moved over into the shul. At one point, it was unclear where Rabbi Brander would be going or if he would be leaving, if Rabbi Fass would leave or not and start something, which back then was just a dream. No one knew if it was going to work.
Nefesh B'Nefesh.
Something called Nefesh B'Nefesh. And eventually, they both decided to leave, and Rabbi Goldberg moves from the assistant rabbi into the senior rabbi position. And I had the privilege of working with all of them for all these years. But there was 1 year where I became the executive director at the shul, but I was still the youth director. So for 1 year, I was the guy making the mess, and I was the guy in charge of cleaning up the mess. And after many trips on the March of the Living, this was also a very big part because it wasn't just about the shul. I was hired to work in the shul, but very quickly started working within the community.
Right.
That was a very, very big inflection point where all of a sudden, I remember maybe it was 2011, and I just done a TJJ trip with public school teenagers. And this was also at the same time that we had a community kollel, which brought down so many of the emerging rabbis to Boca. And now these rabbis, if not leading in Boca, are all over the world. I mean, these are some of the biggest rabbis all over right now, which started in Boca Raton. And there was this moment where the kollel had to unfortunately close down. It was the the financial crisis back in 2009, 2010. That was fortunately, the only casualty. It wasn't just the kollel, but it was a community kollel, which had learning and engagement opportunities throughout the community. So there wasn't any, what we would call back then, outreach taking place beyond the shul. So that's when I came back from the March of Living, then from this other trip, this trip to Israel. And I said to my wife, we're done. We're done. And she, what do you mean you're done? I said, I was so disappointed with the fact that we weren't doing anything beyond our shul, and I really felt like there was an important mission that maybe we could be part of. So we decided to start back then. We were very classic Kiruv, and I'm saying that on purpose, Kiruv organization.
So you became the outreach rabbi.
Became the
at
outreach
BRS.
rabbi, but I learned very quickly that listen, we're not going into. We can do a whole nother show on Jewish outreach, but I found that for me, let's just say for me, I'm not saying it for anyone else, but that the classic outreach model doesn't really work. It didn't work for me. It didn't work for me because I found, and I learned this lesson many times from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, where he said, it's kiruv to what? Closeness to what? Closeness to, you want to make the person close to what you think is the ideal form of Judaism. What's ideal? What's the model? If that's really true, how many people actually can or do that without, like you said before, I did it overnight. It was bizarre. No one ever does that. But usually the people that do that, and it's quick and it changes, bounce back. But I don't want to focus on that right now because you're going to debate that, and we could all debate that, and everyone's going to have their opinions. I just know that it wasn't what I wanted to do. I knew that we had about 150,000 Jews that were what we call disconnected from something. They weren't part of not only a shul, not only the federation, even a JCC, even culturally, they weren't doing any connection to something Jewish. And we started different programs. Some were more successful and some were not. And we just figured we needed to do something on a bigger scale. If we're going to work on the individuals, it might not be as successful. So a lot of trial and error, and we found that community engagement could work really well when communities are united. If we can work on doing that, which was something which is definitely innovative because communities today are not doing things where they're collaborating. And I'm not just talking about amongst the Orthodox Jews, I'm talking about Orthodox, Reform, Conservative, Chabad. Let's just figure out ways where we can talk to one another, not agree with everything, but at least just respect each other for who they are and what they're doing.
So tell me how you did that. Or what you did in order to achieve that.
Yeah, it started by accident. It started on these trips that, again, it comes back to Rabbi Brander and Rabbi Goldberg and Rabbi Fass encouraging me personally to be part of the Jewish Federation, the March of the Living, and all these other types of programs where all of a sudden I'm taking a trip. I'm going to Israel or I'm going to Poland with others that are not like me. And the way I grew up, and certainly from the yeshivas that I've been to and the I guess what I've been taught or what I've been told, there needs to be a wall because we're very, very different and we can't talk to each other. And when you start to find, and I'm not just talking about rabbis, I'm talking about just Jewish people. What would you have to do with someone that's not observant? What would you have to do with someone that's reform or conservative? And what we started to see is that, and this wasn't on purpose. This is why this worked so well, because all of the people that we were spending significant amounts of time with, there was no agenda. We were just all participants on the program. But then you sit down on a train or on a bus, and you start to become friends. And you're saying to yourself, "This is weird. Though we can't be friends. Well, why can't we be friends? Well, because we're different types of Jews." And then you see, well, we are friends, so that must not be true. And then we say, well, maybe there are things we can do together. Maybe there are community efforts that we can rally around. Not everything. We learned quickly that there were things that we couldn't do.
So name one thing that you could do.
So we started running these unity days,
right?
Actually in memory of the three boys,
which
I was turned on to by J.J. Sussman, because he works at Gesher. I didn't know what he was talking about, but we already had these relationships. So let's try build upon that. Just so you know, and we could fast forward to the end, 2018, we were awarded
the Unity
the
Prize.
Unity Prize.
Right.
There's no Jewish community, not only in the United States, in the world that's ever received this prize. No Jewish community. Birthrights received it. Some of the great organizations have received. We're the only community because we really believe in working together.
So I want to get specific here because it's one thing to say Unity
I'll
Day
give
is
you an
not
example.
that. I want you to tell me specifically what does a Unity Day mean?
I'll give you an example. And this wasn't even a Unity Day. This was just an example of where we collaborated. We said that every single synagogue in the community works hard, tries to raise a lot of money to put together something as simple as a Purim carnival. Every single shul. So we say, well, isn't that interesting? It's going to cost, I don't know, for the rides, $5,000, $10,000, depending on the size of your synagogue. And you're going to attract the people that are in your shul to come to it. And if you're listening and you're Orthodox is not the only one that does it. If you're Reform and you're listening, Reform's not the only one that has a Purim carnival. So he said, why don't we find a neutral space, like a big park? In this case, it ended up being the Jewish Federation campus. We have a massive field. Why don't we all chip in, not expect the Federation to coordinate or run it, but we'll all pay, depending on the size of the synagogue. Everyone's got there'll be a scale. Everyone will chip in. We can get more for our money. And not only will everyone in our own shuls be able to join the festivities, but you can even now blast it out to the whole community for people that are not even members of shuls. Right. So you had we did it twice, and then the next one was, unfortunately, COVID. But it was amazing. Because when we can learn to partner together, everyone benefits. Everyone benefits.
I think it's a little bit more than partnering. I'm wondering if you had these experiences as well. I was a rabbi myself for 10 years in out-of-town communities, and I, similar to you, felt like classic Kiruv was not all that effective for me either. I always felt like I want to show people that I could learn from them just as much as they can learn from me. Now, maybe I wasn't going to adopt everything these people did because they weren't religious, but I thought that there was always something that I could sort of learn from them. So it was like a two-way street.
I love that.
Right.
Can I tell you why that's amazing? Because there were a few steps, and it was everything we did, nothing was intentionally planned. We got to a certain point, so we said, okay, now maybe we can try this. Okay, that's good. Now we can try this. But where's the interaction? Where's the regular interaction, not just for the leadership, but for the people? Like, that's the part we were missing, and we didn't know how to do that. We were bringing hundreds and sometimes even thousands of people together to experience and celebrate some of the unity programs that we were having, and we're doing them a few times a year. But where's the consistent program for the everyday Jew? And we came up with this great program, which wasn't originally ours. It started in Detroit. The Partners in Jewish Life, which originally started as Partners in Torah. They did it a little bit differently in Detroit, where it was an in-person program. Gary Torgo wanted to scale the program into other communities, but not on the phone and not over Zoom, but to really build relationships. And we knew we hit a gold mine. That was it. Are there other programs that can bring Jewish community together on a regular basis with something meaningful? I'm sure there are. I can't figure out one other program. I was just at the Board of Governors meeting 2 weeks ago. They had it for the Jewish Agency, and I saw at 4 o'clock there was going to be a session dedicated to Rabbi Hauer being delivered by Rabbi Rick Jacobs, and who he called his chavrusa, his chavruta, right, his study partner,
right.
And they were trying to figure out, they were talking and they were saying, the Jewish Agency doesn't get any bigger than the Jewish Agency, but what can we do? What can we help our communities do to bring them together, to bring the people together? I'm like, we've got it. It's not the solution. I'm sure there are others, but we've got one solution. Bring people together to study in a neutral space. And we were missing one critical component, which was, what do you study? Is it Chumash and Rashi? No, you can't do that, because then one side's got to teach the other and prepare. It's not about a top-down. It needs to be, like you said, person to person, equal, level the playing field. So we went through a lot of different options, spoke to many. Melton, spoke to JLI, Chabad. There's many great curriculums out there. But unfortunately for many of the curriculums, not saying who and what, but you can figure it out yourself, is that they speak mostly to one side of the community. They don't speak to the whole community. And there is one rabbi, my hero,
Rabbi
Lord Jonathan Sachs, a blessed memory,
right.
that everyone just gravitates. And of course, not everyone. There's always going to be someone, but that person probably, whoever doesn't like him, is not interested in unity anyway. So, build relationships. And I really do believe that when just so you know, we're in 3 communities right now, and we're about to get into another 15 through the help of the JCCA, a great partner. And,
communities other than Boca?
Other than Boca.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Where are the 3 that you're in now besides Boca?
We're in Baltimore. An amazing program that's running in Baltimore. We have another program in another partners program in Toronto. Just imagine that it's a partners program dedicated to unity, right? Bringing 2 sides together, learning Rabbi Sacks, being hosted and launched by JCCs and Jewish federations.
Right. Amazing.
It's amazing. They set up a room like a Beit Midrash simply to bring people together. It's amazing. So, and it doesn't cost the community anything. So that's why it's actually working and it's spreading, but not enough people know about it yet.
Yeah. We don't have all that much time left, and I want to get to Israel, which we haven't spoken about at all yet, except at the very beginning. But you mentioned behind the bima when we started, and you mentioned Rabbi Goldberg a few times. You seem like a person who likes, mentors, and so it was always very special listening to the 3 of you guys.
Yeah.
I wasn't always able to listen, but I did a lot. So just tell me what it was like, working with Rabbi Goldberg and Rabbi Moskowitz, and what you took from that.
It's so special. First of all, you get a front row seat to the community. I think what works so well between us is that we're all very, very different people. I think after you've listened to this podcast, you can see clearly why I don't know if you called me the odd man out, but even Rabbi Goldberg's personality is very different from Rabbi Moskowitz. And I think the 3 of us together have something very unique and something special. I think that's hard. I think that's like, coming back to music, the bands that I grew up listening to, many of them didn't last because the internal fighting, or because they were all so different. So it's not easy to keep 3 personalities who are so different together. But when you do, it's magic. And I think, having a chance to sit alongside both of them, you're talking about 2 of the biggest rabbis in the United States right now, people that are still, I don't even think they've hit their prime. I think that they're still growing. We're all still young. We're relatively speaking, certainly Rabbi Moskowitz is a little younger than us, but I can't tell you what it's been like. Again, 25 years in one job, even though it was a number of jobs, but they were all the same job. It's kids, teenagers, adults, programs. We were always involved in all aspects of the community. But any time you had a world-class scholar in residence, guest speaker come through the door, so I would sit next to Rabbi Goldberg. But whenever one of them would come, so I would move over, and Rabbi Goldberg, the person would sit next to between us. But so imagine you get a chance now. Again, I can't even tell you whether it's rabbis, politicians who sat in that seat, and I'm thinking to myself, this is bizarre, because I'm just that kid from Cape Town that somehow ended up in Jersey, that somehow ended up in Baltimore and near Yisrael, and somehow ended up in Hopkins. I wasn't going to Hopkins. I wasn't going to any of these places. Somehow I ended up in Boca, and now I'm standing next to some big Rosh Yeshiva, and I don't know what you would do if you were sitting next to them. I used to just try to listen to them daven. How
Beautiful.
Quickly, how slowly, what are they saying? And you could hear them because you're sitting or standing right next to them. But where else would you get that opportunity? And, Rabbi Goldberg, of course, doesn't like to talk during davening. I like to take advantage of the opportunity, sometimes sitting next to some of these people. Some like to talk more than others. I got to be honest. Some would be quiet. You can't say anything, but others wouldn't mind talking. So you're sitting behind the bima. You get a chance to ask some questions.
We won't ask who the talkers were.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll tell you who the talkers were.
So let me ask you a question, because like I said, we don't have a lot of time left. So listening to this, one could wonder, what are you doing in Israel?
I'm waiting. I'm waiting to see what's next. And
what does that mean? You don't come to Israel just because you're waiting to see what's next.
No, I had to come to Israel because our kids, we have 3 older girls that got married and lived here. So we knew we were going to come to Israel.
So you came here because of them?
We came here because of them. We came here now because of them. Like, we
Had
would
they
have
not been living here, you don't think you'd be here?
Not yet.
Right.
I would still be working in Boca the same way I am now. And I don't know, when we retire or maybe sooner, we're definitely, there's no question. We were talking about Israel. We knew we were coming to Israel. Not when we're growing up and not when I was in Baltimore. I'll just give you an example, the difference. Our daughter was born, and we only found this out later because I never knew our Hebrew dates, my birthdays or my kids' birthdays in Hebrew, the Hebrew dates. My daughter, Avigal, who's born in Baltimore, was apparently born on Hey Iyar.
Oh, wow.
She's the one that went right to the army. But I never knew that in Baltimore. Again, it just shows you the different types of community. Like, what do you mean? You didn't know it was Yom Ha'atzmaut? No, I didn't know. There was no sign.
So how many kids came before you?
So we had three that were...
Three came here before you.
Yeah, three made aliyah out of high school.
Out of
high school.
So you're
all
obviously
got married
doing something right.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. It's not me. It's the community. And I don't... Again, our community started...
Where did they go to high school?
Started Nefesh B'Nefesh. They went to Katz Yeshiva High School, Katz Hillel Day School. And I definitely... It's definitely due to many of their teachers and our community. Obviously, it's Rabbi Goldberg and everyone. Rabbi Brander, very much always Israel conscious, but like I think you can see right now, and this is why it's a little strange because every step of the journey so far has never been anything I applied for. I've never applied in my life for a job. I never applied for. It's just worked out. It's just worked out. So
Baruch Hashem.
Baruch Hashem. Right. And I'm not saying.
So you said when I asked you want to see what's next, and in one of the articles I read, you said to some of your people in Boca that you always want they should always be thinking about what's next. So what is next? Meaning, you said at the beginning that your heart's in Boca, but you're here as well. What is next?
I just feel like everything is there's some. I don't know. I'll give you. Can I give you just a few examples?
Sure.
During COVID, right? I don't know what you did to not kill time. We don't like to kill anything, right? But to take advantage of the time. So one day I was playing around with the gematria of my name, Yehoshua, and Brody, and I see Yehoshua equals, I forget what it is now. I don't have it with me. But you guys at home can play this game. Do it with your own name. You might see something special. I see it's like 300 and something, right? Brody, okay. Each number didn't mean anything. Be added up, it comes to 613. I was like, oh, that's amazing. You know, I don't know. I just feel like there's always something special, and I know I'm here. I have right now in my head. I was just telling Daniela, like I have 6 podcasts in my mind right now. These are not things. I'm not looking to. It's not about me. It's about. There's something maybe for. I don't want to tell you what they are because then someone else is going to take these ideas. These are brilliant ideas. But it's basically all I want to do. This is what I want to do. And I'm going to do it here in Israel. I'm going to do it in America. I'm going to keep doing it wherever I can, is bring different types of Jews together. I really hope that's my life goal, to bring the Jewish world together. It's a little ambitious, but I think we can do it. I want to unite the Jewish people. And number 2, I want to highlight all the good things that are taking place in the Jewish community. That's it. Every news station or news this, news that, maybe bad news sells. I get it. You know, maybe good news is boring, but I don't think it has to be. There's so many great things happening. There are great people I want to meet. And I'm not talking about the people you know. Everyone knows the famous people. But I met so many people in our community here in Modi'in. I met you, but you're more famous. But I'm meeting the average person here. And they're doing great things. I'm like, people should know this.
So
I think people care.
Love being in Israel. It's so evident.
I love being here.
It's so evident from, like I said, your Facebook posts, and
I love
it's almost
it.
Infectious. So why are you so happy to be here?
Israel is special.
I mean, I'm not saying that you shouldn't. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate.
There is, you can't get. I'll tell you can't. I know they want to shut this down. Let me tell you, we're not shutting anything down. This podcast is rocking. I'm just getting warmed up right now. I know Daniela. She's like, we got people coming in. No, because you go to the bakery right now. I just went down to the Modi'in Center. There is no place in America where you get that fresh smell of the challah and the baked goods, and you standing online, and then you see all the people, and you're getting ready for Shabbos. There is something very unique about this place. I just went to buy appliances. We needed new appliances. I know we're done. We're done right now. He's taking out. He's waving flags at me. Let me tell you, where did I go and why did I buy these appliances? Because I asked online, where do you buy appliances? America, I know. I go to Best Buy or I go to Brandsmart, wherever. No, everyone said, you got to get this appliance, and you got to get that appliance, and you buy this brand, not that brand. Good. I had my whole list. We needed everything. I got an oven and a stovetop and a refrigerator. I go in. Where do I go? They told me go to the Avi Sofer, and you go to in what's it called over here? And it's next to Modi'in. And what's it called? Shilat. I meet this guy, Donnie. I give him my list. He says, no. Come here. I'm going to show you. You're going to take this. You're going to take that. You're going to take that. You can take this. Really? What about this? That's what he says, I'm your brother. Now the guy in Brandsmart in Boca is not telling me I'm your brother. And you know what? Whether this stuff works or not, my guy Donnie at Avi Sofer told me this is what we're going to do. He put his name on it. And it's probably going to break, but it's okay. It's okay.
So I want to say one last thing. I want to say one last thing, and you can respond very briefly, and then we'll call it quits. And that is, you said at the beginning that you think that you could have more of an effect in America, and that's why you said your hearts and Boca. I would just suggest to you that I also thought that I couldn't have any real effect here in Israel. I think that what you said towards the end, just a few minutes ago, that you want to bring people together. We are desperately in need here of people being brought together, much more than in the United States, where it's still a problem, but it's far less of a problem. So I would encourage you. Well, not that we don't want to care about Jews in Boca, obviously, but I think that your skill set and your desire to make things better is like a home run here.
Well, I appreciate that, and maybe we'll do the breaking news here when I decide to run for the prime minister. Can I be prime minister if I wasn't born here? Is that possible? I'm going to run on a party to unite the Jewish people. People think it can't be done, but I really do believe we can do it, and.
I think on that note, which is a very positive, beautiful note to end on, Rabbi Broide, thank you so much. Thanks for coming in to Defining Moments, and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Thank you for joining me on Defining Moments. Remember to subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else you get your podcasts, and leave a 5-star rating and a review. Please share this podcast with your friends who, like you, want to be inspired both by this period in Jewish and Israeli history and by the people who are making these defining moments happen. Let's not squander this unique opportunity. Maybe the next defining moment will be created by you or me. Until next time, I'm Rabbi David Fine.